Jay and Silent Bob debuted almost 30 years ago, and even though they were initially shown as two slackers who loitered outside of a New Jersey convenience store, these characters went on to live out some absolutely insane adventures. In today's video, we're going to comb through the entire history of Jay and Silent Bob by taking a chronological look at every one of their appearances in movies, TV shows, and just about any other form of media you can think of. Starting out with the 1994 classic, Clerks.
Clerks. Just because they serve you doesn't mean they like you.
You hate people, but I love gatherings. Isn't it ironic?
Rated R. Now playing at select theaters.
In 1992, Kevin Smith left his hometown of Highlands, New Jersey, to attend an 8-month film program at the Vancouver Film School. But he decided to drop out just 4 months into the program in order to set aside the money that he was going to use during the remainder of his time there to hopefully kickstart the financing of his debut film. Before leaving for film school, Kevin worked at a local convenience store in the town of Leonardo, New Jersey, the now famous Quick Stop. Upon returning home, the store rehired him, and he pretty quickly decided to use the Quick Stop as the setting for his directorial debut, Clerks. But if not for some casting changes, I probably wouldn't even be making this video right now, because Clerks was initially going to be a much different movie. It was originally decided that Kevin would portray the character of Randal, and Dante would be played by Ernie O'Donnell, who eventually appeared as Rick Darris in the movie. But when it comes to the subject of today's video, Silent Bob was going to be played by Kevin's friend and former high school classmate, Mike Bellicose, who would instead appear as Customer with Diapers in Clerks.
37. My girlfriend sucked 37
in a row?
Basically, Kevin realized that his acting chops weren't very good, and the Silent Bob character originally didn't have any dialogue. I'll get back to that a bit later. So he decided to take on that role instead of playing Randal, who would instead be portrayed by first-time actor Jeff Anderson. And when it comes to Jay, this character was always written for Jason Mewes, as Jay was essentially a slightly exaggerated version of his real-life personality. But much like Jeff Anderson, Jason hadn't acted a day in his life, so he was very hesitant about even portraying basically himself for the movie. Because of that, Kevin rehearsed with Jason Mewes for about a month in order to get him ready for the camera. And even then, Mewes would, at times, make anyone who wasn't involved with the scene being filmed either go inside the store during outdoor scenes or leave the store during indoor scenes, because he was too nervous to perform in front of groups of people. In fact, Silent Bob's famous and only line in Clerks was originally supposed to be spoken by Jay, but he kept screwing up the lines, so Kevin just decided to do it himself.
You know, there's a million fine-looking women in the world, dude, but they don't all bring you lasagna at work. Most of them just cheat on you.
But watching Clerks, it's honestly hard to tell that Jason and Kevin didn't have much acting ability, because the duo of Jay and Silent Bob nearly upstaged the rest of the cast. People loitering outside of convenience stores had been done in films prior to Clerks, but these characters just felt so relatable. Not necessarily on a personal level, but if you've been a patron at a convenience store, you've probably encountered people exactly like this. Jay and Silent Bob had less than 10 minutes of screen time in Clerks, which is insane to think about, because they had some of the funniest scenes in the movie.
And how many times have I told you not to be dealing in front of the store?
I'm not dealing, man. What are you talking about?
Yo, you got anything, man?
Yeah, man, what you want, man?
And even though I'm sitting here verbally sucking Jay and Silent Bob off like a circus seal, initially it didn't really seem like there was any fanfare for these characters. Clerks premiered and went to home video during the infancy of the internet, so there seemingly wasn't much buzz around the characters. Not until Comic-Con 1995. Actually, wait, we'll get back to that. For now, let's jump into the duo's next on-screen appearance, in the music video for Can't Even Tell by Soul Asylum.
You know what the problem with music videos is? They never address the interest of the common man.
What are you talking about?
I was just watching MTV. All I saw was chaotic imagery and metaphoric visuals.
After Miramax acquired the distribution rights to Clerks, a theatrical cut of the movie was made. The film originally ended with Dante being shot and killed by a robber. That scene was cut, and I'm so glad it was, but the movie also received a reworked soundtrack that was jam-packed with amazing artists of the time. Can't Even Tell was the closing song in the movie. And not only was the music video directed by Kevin Smith, but a few principal cast members from Clerks made a return for the video as well. We get a spoken introduction between Dante, Randal, and the lead singer of the band, followed by a callback to the boombox dance scene from Clerks, which leads into another callback, a rooftop hockey game between the band and the Quick Stop guys, including Walt Flanagan, who played 4 characters in Clerks, and Brian Johnson, the real-life inspiration for the character of Randal. Silent Bob busts out a guitar solo on a sweet Fender Telecaster, and we get our final callback to Clerks, where the street hockey ball is launched off the roof, and Jay then spouts off a variation of his hilarious dialogue line from the rooftop hockey scene in the actual movie.
Any balls down there?
About the biggest pair you ever seen there, bumhole.
Kevin Smith truly has been self-referencing his own work since 1994. It's amazing.
What is Mallrats?
Do you want Webster's definition?
Are you nuts?
Grungy.
A mutation.
They're just always here.
Mallrats.
Where do you come up with this shit?
Rated R. Starts Friday at theaters everywhere.
After the success of the modestly budgeted Clerks, Kevin Smith worked out a deal with Universal Pictures for his next film, Mallrats. The budget for Clerks was $27,575, whereas Mallrats would cost a whopping $6 million. With all of that money being forked over, it's no surprise that there was some attempted studio meddling during the pre-production stage of the film. Universal did not want Jason Mewes to play Jay, and once again, this character was based on him. Several actors showed interest in the part of Jay, including Mark Paul Gosselaar, Seth Green, and Breckin Meyer. But out of those three actors, the studio was really only considering Seth and Breckin, so it was decided that they would audition for the part against Jason Mewes. Looking back on it now, the audition process for Mallrats was a bit strange. But at the time of its release, it was pretty common for studios to hold round-robin auditions, where groups of actors would come in and compete for a part on the same day. But even though the studio was reluctant about casting him, Jason Mewes was clearly the right choice for the part of Jay. But it turns out that Universal worked out a pretty unconventional deal with Kevin Smith when it came to Jason Mewes.
We're not going to fly him out, and we're not going to put him up for your month of rehearsal. So if you want him there, you fly him out, you put him up. And when we see his first day of dailies, if we don't like him, he's gone and we're bringing in Seth Green.
Jason's first day on camera for Mallrats was the third shooting day for the movie, and as far as I can tell, some or all of his scenes that take place in the backstage area of the Truth or Date game show were shot on that day. After filming those scenes, the footage was copied to a VHS tape that was express shipped back to Universal Pictures, who, after seeing the footage, gave up on even trying to recast the character of Jay. And I'm so glad they gave up on recasting the character because, if not for Jason Lee giving an incredible performance as Brody Bruce, Jay and Silent Bob would have completely stolen the spotlight in Mallrats. Their first scene together in front of the pet store gets me every time.
X-Men style.
Should I call you Logan, Weapon X?
No, Wolverine, snickety, snoring.
And maybe even more hilarious is the Mallrats made-for-TV edit, where it turns out that Jason was scheduled to re-record some clean dialogue, but he didn't show up for his voiceover session, and, well, just take a listen.
What's he doing?
Oh, Meanit here watched Empire and Jedi last week, and ever since he's been trying to do the Jedi mind trick. Crazy dude thinks he can levitate things with his thoughts.
Knock it off.
Before Mallrats officially debuted in theaters, the film was taken to San Diego Comic-Con in 1995 for a special preview screening. And much to Kevin's surprise, when Jay and Silent Bob appeared on screen, the entire audience erupted in applause. Clerks had been released onto home video in May of 1995, just 2 months prior to San Diego Comic-Con. And buzz already started building around the characters in that short of a time. But the official theatrical release of Mallrats was just a few short months away, so now it was time to do some promotion.
Hi there, welcome back to the Mallrats Premiere Party. I'm here with Kevin Smith and Jason Lee.
Hello.
Hello, Jason.
How are you?
Good to see you. Welcome to the couch.
Thanks.
In the first of many collaborations between Kevin Smith and MTV, the network ran a special called Mallrats Premiere Party just before the film's release in 1995. The special was hosted by MTV VJ Kennedy.
Hey, Kennedy, so we gotta.
Jay and Silent Bob open up the special and appear in little skits throughout, where they are basically trying to sneak into the premiere event. This special is also where the second music video directed by Kevin Smith, Build Me Up Buttercup by the Goops, made its television premiere. This music video was awesome not only because of Jay and Silent Bob's inclusion within it, but there were several jokes and references to common music video tropes of the time. I also wanted to quickly mention that during production on Mallrats, Kevin found out that a Clerks TV sitcom pilot was being developed by Touchstone Television. He had nothing to do with this pilot, and nobody from Clerks was set to appear in the series, but I wanted to mention it because the creatives behind it opted to replace the characters of Jay and Silent Bob with one character named Ray.
And he's playing Chronic, aka Ray. Jay.
Biggs, you can read the script?
I'm really glad that this pilot never got picked up for a full series because, wow, it is bad.
You never sell it to me.
You know the law, Ray. No fake ID, no beer. Now get out of here.
Oh, all right, Dante, all right. Well, we'll see if you get in my business again, all right?
But I don't think you understand. I've been looking for a job, but this economy now, it's tough.
Most of you probably know the story of Mallrats at the box office. In short, it completely bombed. But during the production of that film, Kevin Smith became good friends with Malcolm Ingram, a Canadian journalist from the movie review publication Film Threat. Pay close attention to the background extras during the truth or date scene in Mallrats, and you'll see Malcolm staring at the stage in a very creepy, focused manner. Anyway, Kevin, along with Malcolm and his friend Matt Gissing, ventured into the Canadian wilderness to film Drawing Flies, the often forgotten entry into the Mewes universe. The cast was comprised of almost every young actor involved in the making of Mallrats. And even though Kevin Smith is referred to as John throughout the film, not only is he wearing Silent Bob's famous green trench coat, but he's actually credited as Silent Bob in the movie. And Ethan Suplee is referred to as Ethan, but is credited as Willem Black, which was the name of his sailboat-obsessed character in Mallrats. Drawing Flies was shown at a few festivals, but wasn't available on DVD until 2002. It's a strange little movie that was also shot with the same exact camera that was used to film Clerks, which explains the black and white color palette.
The hallmarks of a classic.
You know you have no shot at getting her into bed.
From the director of Clerks, Chasing Amy, rated R, now playing.
Although Kevin Smith believed that his film career was over after Mallrats, Miramax was willing to give him another shot, which brings us to Chasing Amy. Out of every film in the Mewes universe, I'm almost positive that at just barely 9 minutes, Jay and Silent Bob had the least amount of screen time in Chasing Amy. But this is definitely a case of quality over quantity, because ask anyone about the most memorable scenes from Chasing Amy, and I guarantee you they'll mention this one.
Chasing Amy.
What do you look so shocked for, man? Fat bastard does this all the time. He thinks just because he don't say anything, it'll have some huge impact when he does open his fucking
Jesus
mouth?
Christ, why don't you shut up?
Aside from their very short appearance in the movie, Ben Affleck and Jason Lee's characters, Holden McNeil and Banky Edwards, are responsible for drawing and tracing, inking, the Blunt Man and Chronic comic book series, which is based on the Jay and Silent Bob characters.
Hi, welcome back to Jay and Silent Bob's Video Stash here at the Secret Stash, Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash in Red Bank, New Jersey. We're showing some videos, we're showing some shorts that we've done.
Just about 1 year after the release of Chasing Amy, Kevin Smith would once again collaborate with the MTV network for a special called Jay and Silent Bob's Video Stash. And I just want to thank the maniacs out there who rip VHS tapes and post their contents onto the internet, because this special is truly a time capsule of the 90s. Jay and Silent Bob's Video Stash was a 1-hour special that contained all new shorts, starring, of course, Jay and Silent Bob, along with Scott Mosier and some actor named Matt Damon. The special also contains interviews with Walt Flanagan and Brian Johnson, and a brief cameo from future Impractical Joker, Brian Quinn. He'll be making another appearance in this video just a bit later. The special also acted as an advertisement for Kevin's, at the time, recently purchased comic book store called The Secret Stash. My favorite skit involves Jason Mewes basically admitting that he was the guy that Alanis Morissette was talking about in her song called Head Over Feet. Silent Bob's reaction and the song slowly fading in is just such a beautiful comedic moment.
Listen, it's something I wanted to tell you for the longest time. I was the dude in the Alanis Morissette song. Remember when I told you I was dating some chick from Canada? That's who I was talking about. About.
Sex is a joke in heaven.
The way I understand it, it's mostly a joke down here, too.
Get it?
Jay and Silent Bob might have had an extremely small amount of screen time in Chasing Amy, but clearly fans were clamoring for more. Because even though Dogma had the most stacked cast of any Kevin Smith movie up to that point, they're basically the main characters of the film. And this is the movie that truly took these characters to new heights. Because now, instead of just being two guys who loiter outside of a convenience store or inside of a mall, Jay and Silent Bob have taken on the role of prophets who are responsible for aiding the last scion on a mission to save not just the world, but existence as we know it. Also, Dogma just so happens to contain my favorite quotes from both Jay and Silent Bob.
no ticket.
The biggest thing that stood out in Dogma was Jason Mewes' acting ability. Kevin has told the story countless times about the excitement surrounding the casting of Alan Rickman. This dude was a classically trained actor, and more importantly, he played Hans Gruber. Jason Mewes was so terrified of messing up in front of Alan Rickman that he memorized basically the entire script. And it shows, because for a guy that was too scared to act in front of small groups of people just a few years prior, Jason Mewes somehow managed to upstage everyone in this movie.
All bets are off.
Scream 3.
Don't panic.
Rated R.
I was so distracted by Courtney Cox's terrible haircut that I almost missed the fact that Jay and Silent Bob made a brief cameo in Scream 3.
Oh shit, Silent Bob, it's that TV news chick, Connie fucking Chung. Hey Connie, how's Maury? Dude, I think she likes me, man. See how she's looking at me?
Kevin talked about his and Mewes' experience on this movie in the First Evening with Kevin Smith special, and it turns out that they each got paid $1,200 for this cameo, along with a $300 per diem up front and a free t-shirt, which Jason Mewes was unsurprisingly ecstatic about. Clerks, the animated series, was ABC's second attempt at giving a televised treatment to the View Askew universe. Unfortunately, the show was canceled after only 2 episodes. And listen, I'm just some idiot who makes subpar YouTube videos, but even I know that Clerks and the family-friendly ABC network are a terrible match. Had this show premiered somewhere like Comedy Central or the now-defunct Spike TV, I think that Clerks the animated series would have had a pretty decent run. Even though this series was limited to a TV PG rating, the writers did a really good job adapting these characters to a cartoon format. The animation really holds up, which is a testament to the talents of character designer Steven Silver, who went on to work on shows like Kim Possible, The Fairly OddParents, Danny Phantom, and a super underrated favorite from my childhood, The Weekenders.
You like snakes?
Of course I like snakes.
How about trouser snakes?
What's a trouser snake?
The most dangerous animal known to man.
Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Rated R. In theaters everywhere Friday.
If you were to take the comedic sensibilities of Kevin Smith's movies in the 90s and stick them in a blender with the raunchy comedies of the early 2000s, you'd get Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. In the film, the duo discovers that Miramax has optioned the film rights to the Blunt Man and Chronic characters that were introduced in Chasing Amy.
Oh my god, don't tell me you have no idea there's a movie being made of the comic you two were the basis for.
What? Since when?
As a result, the duo is led on a cross-country adventure involving a stolen monkey, a diamond heist, a police pursuit, and some Miramax studio lot craziness reminiscent of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. This movie is not for everybody, but this was actually the first View Askew movie I ever watched. Comedy Central used to run a series called Canned Ham, where a movie would be showcased, and they would occasionally cut to interviews with the creatives behind said project. Unfortunately, I cannot for the life of me find that particular episode of Canned Ham, but Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes appeared in character as Jay and Silent Bob during that special, and I remember watching it late at night when I was like 12 years old. I didn't understand any of the references to past View Askew films, but it didn't matter because I thought and still think this movie is hilarious.
Tickets? Since when they start charging for the bus? Do we used to ride that shit to school every morning for free?
And if I'm not mistaken, this is the only entry in the View Askew universe where Silent Bob speaks on 2 separate occasions.
The sign on the back of the car said Critters of Hollywood!
2 of the songs that appeared on the soundtrack for Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back had music videos with appearances by Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith, starting off with the video for Kick Some Ass by Stroke 9. This song was famously played during the scene in which Jay and Silent Bob take their Blunt Man and Chronic movie check and spend it on plane tickets to travel to the internet trolls who trashed them online earlier in the film. Jay and Silent Bob also appeared in the music video for Afroman's hit song Because I Got High, where the duo basically just does their signature head bob dance for most of the video, until they chase down Afroman's ice cream truck and indulge in a bit of the devil's arugula with him under a bridge. In Season 4, Episode 19 of Yes Dear, titled The Premiere, the show's main character, Greg, is invited to a movie premiere but doesn't want to go. So the other main characters on the show, Jimmy and Christine, swipe his tickets to said premiere without him knowing. The film being shown at the premiere is a slapstick war movie set during World War II, and it's a total stinker. Jimmy decides to take a bathroom break during the premiere where he runs into Kevin Smith, not knowing that Kevin actually directed the movie being shown at the premiere.
Good? This is a stinkeroo. Doing this? Oh, about the only chance I got of staying awake through this garbage.
Really? You didn't like it?
Oh, God, sitting in there, I feel like I'm the one in the prisoner of war camp.
Long story short, Jimmy has to pose as Greg when Kevin is invited to his office for an apology. The reason I'm bringing this episode up is that Kevin appears as Silent Bob during the final scene of the episode.
Ladies and gentlemen, Silent Bob.
And on a related note, the next year, Kevin Smith also appeared in Season 2, Episode 2 of the Friends spin-off Joey. He wasn't in character as Silent Bob, but I just think it's so bizarre that Kevin Smith is technically part of the Friends continuity.
Hey out there in TV land, it's the coolest motherfucking cats on the planet, Jay and Silent Bob. And we're renaming your favorite TV show of 1990. F***ing deal with it.
Before VH1 took a page out of MTV's playbook by turning into a reality television hellscape, they actually had some pretty cool programming. One series that I spent countless hours consuming was the I Love The series of shows. I Love The 90s had a segment called Jay and Silent Bob Rename Your Favorite TV Show, in which Silent Bob held up a cue card with the title of a popular 90s show, and Jay would riff on it.
We're renaming your favorite TV show of 1997. Wait, why didn't we come up with this show and make millions of dollars? So a couple of dumbasses made some paper dolls talk. Threw some words in, made them fart and stuff.
Go to... Sir! There'll be no more cuss words out of you, you potty-mouth Mallrat. You're gonna learn the dual languages of my home and native land, and you're gonna savor my poutine!
Now here's a show that, as a warm-blooded American male, I know absolutely nothing about. Yep, I totally did not tune into the N every Friday night to catch up on the latest happenings at Degrassi Community School. Alright, I'll admit it. Degrassi The Next Generation was a guilty pleasure of mine between the age of like 9 and 13.
Smoke weed every day.
But I do remember watching what might be the strangest Jay and Silent Bob crossover in this video. Not just one episode, but several episodes of Degrassi The Next Generation with Kevin Smith and Jason Mewes. In the tail end of Season 4, Kevin Smith rolls into town on a location scout and eventually decides to use the Degrassi Community School as a filming location for his upcoming fictional movie, Jay and Silent Bob Go Canadian, eh? As bizarre as this crossover was, if you look back at Kevin Smith's previous films, there have been repeated references to Degrassi Junior High and Degrassi High. So of course he'd want to live out his dream of sharing scenes with characters from those shows who made a return for the next generation. Long story short, the movie is filmed, and the premiere is held in Season 5, Episode 11. But a few seasons later, Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith returned once again, in a stretch of episodes where auditions are being held for a new movie called Mewes High. And I know I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but in 2018, Drake reunited most of the cast from his time on Degrassi for the music video for the song I'm Upset, including Jay and Silent Bob. And as much as this song was overplayed the summer that it came out, I'll admit that this video was pretty hilarious.
That's some white freaky stuff.
Clerks II, rated R, everywhere July 21st.
After the credits rolled on Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Alanis Morissette returned as the God character from Dogma and literally closed the book on the View universe. Kevin Smith's next film was Jersey Girl, which, as you may know, ditched the usual stoner antics of Jay and Silent Bob and was instead a PG-13 romantic comedy that also focused on father-daughter relationships. The movie just barely made its budget back at the box office, so Kevin decided to go back to the well and began writing Clerks II. Now, I haven't touched on it yet because I didn't want to drag the mood of the video down, but it's a pretty well-known fact that Jason Mewes had a long history of substance abuse problems for a good chunk of his life. Kevin would always ensure that he sobered up before a movie shoot, but he'd always relapse after the shoot was done, and this cycle went on for literal years. Jason was supposed to have a cameo in Jersey Girl as a pizza guy, but he had a warrant out for his arrest and couldn't appear in the movie. Luckily, Jason has been clean and sober since July of 2010. He has a beautiful family with another child on the way, and he seems to be in a really good place. Some of Jason's experiences were written into the script for Clerks II and were shared in the opening dialogue between Jay, Silent Bob, and their prospective customers.
The cops pull us over, they find 2 pounds of Jamaican lamb's wool. Prosecutor wants to put us away for a dime, but the judge gives us rehab instead.
For fans of Jay and Silent Bob that weren't into Canadian melodrama or 90s nostalgia countdown shows, this was the first appearance of these characters in a scripted movie role since 2001. Their roles in Clerks II were very reminiscent of their debut appearance in the original Clerks, as they spent most of the film standing outside the Moby's restaurant, occasionally popping in to drop a hilarious one-liner. I swear, anytime I'm eating fast food and it doesn't taste very good, I quote this Jay line.
You know, this tastes like piss and flies, don't it?
Unlike previous entries in the View Askew universe, Kevin decided against having Silent Bob open his mouth to say something impactful during the jail cell scene. Instead, he let Jeff Anderson fill that role in what is probably my favorite dramatic scene in View Askew history. I know they aren't credited as Jay and Silent Bob, but Kevin is wearing his signature green trench coat in this scene, so I'll make an exception. Fanboys was co-written by Ernest Cline, who wrote the Ready Player One book, and Adam F. Goldberg, who went on to create the sitcom The Goldbergs, a show that Kevin has directed a handful of episodes on. Kevin and Jason make a quick cameo and were both credited as Guy at Gas Station. Also, the actor who played the sexy stud in Clerks II shows up, following Jason out of the gas station bathroom. This movie was completely shit on when it first came out, but it's a solid road trip comedy with a great cast.
Well, look at us, Lunchbox. If we ain't the right guys, then who the f*** is?
Made on a budget of exactly $69,000.
69.
Jay and Silent Bob's Groovy cartoon movie is a sort of spiritual follow-up to the Clerks animated series. In the film, Jay and Silent Bob win $10 million on a $5 scratch ticket and decide that they're going to build a superhero lair under RST Video and assume the role of Bluntman and Chronic. The premise was strong enough, but the rest of the movie is essentially a long string of dick and fart jokes, which, of course, most Kevin Smith movies are, but I just couldn't get into this one. And it's unfortunate because the voice acting cast is pretty solid, MC Chris was brought in to provide some music for the movie, and the premise is enticing enough, but the film just never hit its full potential. Before sitting down to write this video, I knew that Jay and Silent Bob made appearances, or at the very least, quick cameos in a good amount of music videos over the years, but that is a total understatement. To keep things moving, we'll take a look at the music videos Jay and Silent Bob have made appearances in that I haven't covered yet, starting off with Nova Rockafeller and the video for Problem, released in 2013. The video takes us on a point-of-view journey through a party, and we run into not only Chris Drama Path from Rob It Big, but we also run into Kevin Smith and Jay Mewes getting a bit intimate on a bed. They're not in character, but I just felt like it was worth mentioning. Jumping ahead 1 year to 2014, let's take a look at the video for You Can't Stop Me by Suicide Silence. In this video, the band finds themselves in a situation reminiscent of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, where spiked walls are gradually closing in. At the end of the video, Jason Mewes walks in, and hilarity ensues.
Guys, I'm here to join the band. I am the best skin flute player you've ever seen.
And the last music video in today's episode is for the 2019 song Loser by Mob Rich. Or I guess Moby Rich, they changed their name or something. It's not important. This song was included on the soundtrack for Jay and Silent Bob Reboot, and the music video takes place outside of a convenience store. It's not the quick stop, but Jay and Silent Bob don't seem to care.
These are the adventures of Randal Hicks. Life always has some nice surprises up its sleeve. Tragic losses, new allies, betrayals.
Randall's Monday is a 2014 point-and-click adventure game starring Jeff Anderson. It's truly a sin that this game was overlooked by so many people. It's not the greatest point-and-click adventure game ever made or anything, but I remember enjoying it when I played it a few years back. Anyway, aside from the legend that is Jeff Anderson, Jason Mewes also provides a few voiceover lines for the game as well.
Hey, what's your problem, dude? I just said hi.
Oh, my bad, all right? Sometimes I just can't control myself. I'm Jay, and this is my hetero life partner, Silent Bob.
In Season 4, Episode 17 of the CW series The Flash, Jay and Silent Bob briefly show up as a pair of warehouse workers. This cameo took place in one of the 3 episodes of The Flash that Kevin Smith directed a few years back.
you guys think about this reboot?
It sucks. There, I said it. And who's directing this shit anyway? Kevin fucking Smith?
Silent Bob Reboot is meant to poke fun at the constant barrage of reboots that Hollywood throws at movie-going audiences, while also acting as a soft reboot of Silent Bob Strike Back. In the film, Jay and Silent Bob are road tripping from New Jersey to Hollywood in order to put a stop to the filming of the Blunt Man and Chronic reboot. Even though this film definitely played things pretty safe with its comedic material, I was stoked to see the Brody Bruce character for the first time in almost 20 years. The Chasing Amy reunion scene was really good, and Kevin was able to wrangle a pretty sizable amount of celebrity cameos for this movie.
It's Jay and Silent Bob, the game is Mall Brawl. After being rats in the mall, they're AWOL. Now it's your call to go balls to the wall.
In May of 2020, Jay and Silent Bob finally received their own video game. Jay and Silent Bob Mall Brawl is a side-scrolling beat-em-up that was initially released in cartridge format and is fully playable on original Nintendo hardware, and the game was eventually released on all major consoles and Steam. Not only is this a solid Double Dragon style beat-em-up game, but it was also released to basically hold people over while Chronic Blunt Punch remains in development.
Jay and Silent Bob are in his house in Venice Beach with the Impractical Jokers.
For this portion of the episode, each Joker has to ask for a pedestrian's help in untangling a pair of headphones. But at the same time, someone, or in this case, a pair of characters, comes rushing up at the Joker in question to pull their pants down. This was such a great full circle moment, because you might not know this, but Brian Quinn started as an intern at View Askew in the 1990s, and ended up working there for about 2 years. He maintained a friendship with some of the characters that he met during his time at View Askew, and eventually started the podcast Tell 'em Steve Dave with Brian Johnson and Walt Flanagan, which is still going strong today.
Added a scene where you get shot.
I'm not letting you kill me off in the third act. What if there's a sequel?
A sequel? What am I, a hack?
Alright, we finally arrived to the last topic of discussion in today's video, Clerks III. Much like the first 2 entries in this series of films, Jay and Silent Bob are not the main focus of the film, but rather a backdrop to the quick stop itself. Although compared to those earlier films, they definitely have the most screen time here. In Clerks III, Jay and Silent Bob own a legitimate dispensary that is housed within the former RST video retail space, yet they still insist on dealing their product the old-fashioned way. The original Clerks movie is essentially remade within this latest installment, and Randal leans on Jay and Silent Bob for assistance while shooting the movie. Jay mostly just sits around eating snacks, but occasionally holds the boom mic, or the hockey stick fashioned into a boom mic, while Silent Bob acts as the film's cinematographer. The duo also appear in the movie being made within the movie, so of course Kevin jumped at the opportunity to poke fun at the stage fright that Jason had in the early stages of his acting career. I know that it might just be a throwaway line for some people, but there's a scene in this movie where Jay and Silent Bob don't know Dante's name, and Jay insists on calling him Sergio. It gets me every time.
Anything for our boy Sergio.
But that just about does it for this video. Of course, it's gonna be dated once Mallrats 2 is finally released, but I'll definitely cover that movie when the time comes. Aside from the appearances I mentioned, Jay and Silent Bob also showed up in a few comic books, including a series of their own, as well as the Clerks comics and the miniseries Chasing Dogma. There was also one mysterious entry in Jason Mewes and Kevin Smith's filmography called Lucy, You Love It. If anybody can track that down, please leave a link down below in the comment section. But that'll do it for today's video. Please feel free to leave a comment down below with your thoughts and opinions. It helps the exposure and growth of my videos in a big way. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.